So I'm just going to share the photos that you took nearly a year ago now of what was happening. So let me just share my screen, and then maybe could chat through what happened there.
Oh, so this is a year 2 class. So this was in October, so probably still only about 6, these children. And I actually told them the story of the mustard seed. The theme for the school, for our collective worship and storytelling at that time, was service. So I thought the mustard seed would be a good story to link into how small acts can have big effects, because obviously the small seed grows into the huge tree and has a lot of impact on everybody. So I told the story and we thought about what it meant, and then I invited the children to tell their own story and taking it in turns, giving each other a chance to join in. This was a group of about 6 children, and their story was incredible. In class, they had been working on a project about environmental disasters and the impact that humans have on the environment. And that ended up coming into their story. To start with, they decided to have a boy swimming. Nothing to do with the mustard seed, but I think they liked the sea, the watery pieces of felt. So they made a sea. They had a boy swimming, and the boy got into trouble. And they just picked up this story from each other and kept developing it. So then somebody rescues the boy, and then he was covered in blankets. So you can see the figures there with the yellow, that's the blankets. And then they built a shelter to keep them warm. But then elements of this disaster story started to come in. They found the pieces which are often used as clouds, sort of grey pieces, and put them in the water and started saying that there was oil in the water. And then other things, the red felts came in, that was more pollution. And so the story went on until eventually absolutely every single piece came out onto the cloth. And they talked about how the effects of the actions of the people had created this huge storm and flood, and everything flooded into the water. And it was just an amazing scene. You can see in the last one there, it's a complete scene of devastation. And it was just so insightful for those children, because that is exactly the scene that we see, isn't it, on our television sometimes when you have these terrible floods. And this is 6-year-olds expressing how it is, whether they've seen pictures like that and they're trying to make sense of it. But I just found that amazing, actually, and really quite moving to look at. And just entirely their own thing and feeding off each other. And then we looked at that scene for a while and thought about it and wondered about it. And then they very carefully and orderly put everything back away into all the right places, and all took their own task in doing that. I think at the time I often don't realise how much is going on, but looking back a year later, I find it amazing actually to think of what did come out of that. And afterwards I asked them to do a drawing. They could draw whatever they liked, so long as it linked in some way to service, because that's where we started. That was our theme. And really, in order to have some kind of evidence on the wall, it's good to have a picture or something. And it was amazing, because after all of that storytelling, they went off, they sat in complete silence, not with me saying you must sit in silence. They just went off absolutely, completely bound up in their own thoughts and concentration, and drew completely different things. So one drew her mum helping a homeless person on the street. One drew himself helping his mum with washing. One drew a rainbow across the page, and underneath was another story that we'd explored previously of Jesus healing a leper. One drew themselves on the canal, because we live right by the Leeds Liverpool Canal, and going out to feed the ducks, but a fence being there in order to prevent them from falling in, and so they were helping but keeping safe. And I think they were thinking about the fact that we'd had this water and this disaster, and they were just really, really happy with everything that they'd done. Now, if I'd just gone in the classroom and said, can you draw me some pictures about service, I probably would have got nowhere, and they wouldn't have really had that same imaginative spark. And I just, even now looking back, I find it amazing that this whole process went through this completely seemingly unconnected story from where we'd started, ended up with all this sort of process of thought and outcome, and we all went away very happy and content.
Thank you so much. Wow. I think that just speaks for itself. I'm not going to add anything to what you said. Thank you, Kathy. That's great. Thank you.